Welcome to another episode of Personal Brand Blueprint. Today, we're going to do a little mixture of learning about some aspects of how our guest grew their personal brand and are driving leads and business opportunities their way, as well as talking a little bit more about authenticity and how to reflect that in our content, in our personal brand, and just how we show up overall. So, today we have an award winning international speaker. She is a speaker, trainer, and a course creator, best-selling author, strategic storytelling consultant, and host of the Flourishing Entrepreneur podcast. So please welcome Aleya Harris to today's show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. And what people don't see is how the sausage is made with these podcasts. And right before we started this podcast, I was having a lot of technical difficulties.
But we got it together. That's the most important part. We got it together. You got it together. I didn't do anything. And we are here.
yeah. It's I'm sure everyone can relate about having to deal with softwares and hardware and everything to get some content creation. But yeah, just power through. And I'm glad we got through that and we can kickstart today. And what I like to start with is a question that is really important in personal branding because we're asked it all the time. You're, a public speaker, so it's something I'm sure as you're shaking hands afterwards, you get asked all the time. But what do you do?
I am a strategic storytelling consultant above all, and a international speaker, but I use all of the modes of communication, whether it's a book or from the stage, to ultimately help people develop radically authentic stories that differentiate themselves in the marketplace and help them make more money. Underneath all of that, though, at the core of me, my goal in life is to love people into the highest versions of themselves. So everything that I do is kind of an excuse. I got the fancy websites, and I'm talking on social. And you think that you're coming to me because you, want to be more confident speaking on stage. By the time I'm done with you, however, you will be more confident on stage, but then you will also just have a clearer perspective on who you are and how to move forward in a way that feels good. And that's what I've always done. I've been a private chef, I've been a marketer, storyteller, speaker. All of the things have just been ways for me to connect with humans so that they can better connect with themselves and others.
I think it's a really interesting point that you mentioned there about feeling like just more comfortable and clear with yourself. That's such a huge element in personal branding. A lot of people skip that step, the understanding who they are and what they have to say, and they go right into content creation or offer creation. What's usually, when you're working with people, where are they in their lives? What problems are they facing that you're helping them correct?
I was trying not to as you were talking, because this is recorded, and as a podcast host myself, I know when you interrupt someone, it sounds weird. No. But when you said they should have something to say, I almost let out the largest guffaw ever, because that is one of my biggest pet peeves. So you jump right into content creation, and I'm about to get on a soapbox. So are you ready for it? You ready for it? We're doing it.
Floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm stepping up on the box. So yes, when you have a personal brand, you need the things you should probably have a photo shoot. Yeah, you need some social presence and all this wonderful stuff. But why? If you don't have anything to say, if you don't have anything to add to the conversation, if you don't have a perspective, if you're just trying to be the next, do this one magical thing and you'll make $10 million in 10 minutes, it is exhausting. And you, with the most love, are part of the problem. A personal brand, any brand for that matter, is created so that people can recognize the counterpart to their problem in you. So I, as an individual, have a problem. I'm looking for a solution to said problem. The people that are providing the solutions are packaging themselves up using a brand so that the solution is super clear and talks to the person that has the problem. But if all of the packaging looks exactly the same and you're just trying to be a cookie cutter of someone else, you're actually doing your audience a huge disservice, because now where, you might have been the pink package and there's a blue one and a green one, now everybody's gray. And as a service, someone looking for a service or a product, I now don't know what to choose, and I'm in a worse position than I was before. And people get themselves in that position because they are scared. They're entrepreneurs. That's like some money's been invested, some time's been invested. And they're like, ooh, I better just do, like, these other people seem like they know what they're doing. Spoiler alert, they don't. So let's just put that
They're
out
just
there.
copying the
They're
person that
copying
they
another
saw.
person. Exactly. You are in the long line of copycats, and some people just copy it better. And now I'm being a bit much, which in general I am, but it's not everyone that does this. But when I see people come to me, they're attracted to me because my box is not gray. My box has some holes in it and is a little scuffed. And also there's glitter involved and definitely pink. And there's like a big afro on top of my box. And it looks different, right? They're excited about it. They also see the imperfections in the box. They can relate to the box. They understand how I can help them because my box is clear and differentiated. Because I have something to say. I have a perspective that is different. And the difference didn't come from me going out into the world and jiggling everybody else's box to see how I could be different from them. It came from inside of me. It came from my life experience. There's a woman who I adore, who I don't know. She's my bestie, but she doesn't know it. Like, it's one of those situations. Her name is Caroline Miss, and she has several books, but one of my favorite quotes from her is, "Your biography becomes your biology." So the life that you lead gets embedded into your physical biology, who you are, your body, but also then your perspective on how do you live your life. And that is exactly the perspective of which you should be using to attract people to you so that you're standing out. There are enough people out there that are going to be attracted to you based off of your specific biography, your specific biology, that you don't have to try to be a gray box. Now, did I answer your question? I don't know because I don't actually remember what the question
I do that all the time. But no, that was
but
very
I
well
got on my
done.
soapbox and I'm getting off of it now.
Stay on it because that was all great. Um, no, I think the key thing is around people who maybe feel as though they know what they should be talking about, but they haven't gone through a process to really identify, do I actually know what I'm talking about? Do I, like, am I speaking to the right experiences? Am I speaking to experiences at all? What are, for those who either want to do it at home or work with someone like you, what are the steps to take to understand, to do the work, to kind of do the journaling and the meditation work to like understand what authentic is for them? And then, yeah, like how do I get that in a document or some way in front of me where I know, am I being authentic? Am I being true? And then next we'll kind of talk about like, okay, then how do I apply that?
Well, now you set me up for a shameless plug. I can't not talk about my book now because that's literally what it does.
Please
So we're going to
do.
just say that real quick.
Yeah.
That my book, which is called Spark the Stage, is available everywhere, including Amazon. Please buy it and leave a review.
Link in the bio.
Goes, yep, click the link, all over the links.
Yeah.
You're gonna want it, I promise. Because I work with people in 3 stages, and the book has the same 3 stages. It's get real, get clear, and get connected. So the first section, that get real section, is what you're talking about. It's a bunch of, I call them essence expeditions or exercises that you can go through to understand who you are. And this is not like a fun experience. I mean, like, there's maybe laughter involved, I guess, but there's a lot more tears and frustration than laughter when you're trying to figure out, what do I have to say? That isn't just a regurgitation of the course I just took, and that just isn't a compilation of all the shoulds that I have internalized from other people. So I kind of want to get that out in the beginning, that I know that what I'm asking you to do is not an easy or fun experience. But the things that you need to do on a higher level are excavate the things that are not working for you and replenish it with things that can support you in letting your radically authentic self shine. So, the type of storytelling that I say that I do is radically authentic strategic storytelling. The radically authentic part comes from my concept that you have this radically authentic self within you. Think of it like a ball of light deep down within you. And the more shoulds, the more limitations, the more erroneous beliefs that you hold, the harder it is to see that light. Each belief, each pain, each unresolved trauma covers up that light and blocks it from shining, but it's there. It's the part of you that already knows, that's already differentiated, that already has a story to tell, that already is screaming at you for putting yourself into a gray, ugly box. Your job is not to actually add anything. It's to remove and then support that part in coming out and being its best self. That's the part of people that I like to get down to. So some of the ways that you can do it are freeform writing, excavating the things that are you in your unconscious and your subconscious that you don't give voice to. So writing. It's also another like automatic writing, or if you've heard of like what's the word? Daily pages, something like that, right? Where you're writing at the speed of your thought. I actually do it with my eyes closed. It's not about what you're writing on the page. It's about connecting your subconscious to something kinesthetic and just writing. You're not might even not finish words as you're writing. You're just going to keep writing, and allow whatever comes up to comes up. Sometimes I cry, sometimes I grunt, sometimes I roll my eyes at myself. It's to allow those emotions to come out and allow some of those layers to be peeled off of your radically authentic self. Other things that I like to do are chanting. I am a horrible meditator. It's not good. I get frustrated. They're like, give your mind and make it blank. I'm like, so I don't think my mind's ever been blank. I always have something to say. I talk a lot. Like in elementary school, I was the kid who couldn't even whisper right. I was talking just all the time. And so imagine what happens inside my brain, right? You guys are hearing what's coming out of my mouth, and I already know it's kind of a lot. So I don't meditate that way. I like to focus on something like a chant, like a tone, even a short affirmation to allow myself to get into the vein where the rest of me it's almost like I have a toddler. It's almost like distracting a toddler. It's like, look over here. And while I'm looking over there, the rest of my brain is allowed to process information and get rid of what no longer serves it. So that's another great way of getting down into yourself. Writing letters to your past self, forgiving other people, writing letters to those people that you may or may not ever send. At the time of this recording, in 4 days, I actually am producing my first speaker event. So I'm on the other side of the table. I am also a speaker in the event, but also like producing it for other speakers. And it's all about stories and storytelling. And my story is about my daddy issues, ayahuasca, and Salvador Dali. Obviously,
when is this? How do I attend?
This is in Los Angeles, live in person on October 27th at the Westchester Playhouse. You can go to speakevent.com to sign up. This will probably, I don't know when you're actually publishing this episode, is probably going to be after that. But when I'm talking about my story and I'm telling my story about all of my issues, I can only do that because I've done the excavation and I've done the getting to know myself in that process. And I'm able to help other people do it. And then now I have something to say that's unique to me. I'm talking about my process. I'm talking about what I learned from that process. And then that connects me with other people. So do a bunch of people have daddy issues? Yeah, unfortunately, it's kind of a thing in our society. But are they able to articulate them the way that I am? No, because they might not be along in that part of their journey yet. Right? So my story enables their story. Crises and the things that we go through, the traumas we experience, dim our light until we find the purpose within them. When you find the purpose, the lesson, the gift within the crisis, then all of a sudden you let that come off of the layer that's blocking your light and use it to amplify your light as a reflector and share it with other people, so then their stories are clearer and more profound. So there's lots of exercises, again, which you can get in my book, Spark the Stage, available on Amazon, that you can go through to get to a point where you have actually gone on your own journey and articulated to yourself what that is. And you'll have moments where you're like, oh my gosh, I need to tell somebody. I need to tell somebody this about this right now. Connecting the dots in my life. I've seen how all of these issues have come up around me. I have an answer. I have a solution. I can put that into my work. And it doesn't matter if you're a mechanic or a consultant or a restaurant owner. Then all of a sudden, your personal brand gets just the right nuance it needed to connect to a human in a unique and differentiated way. If you can
What was
then
that?
put that into a clear story, you're winning.
I was going to say, it sounds very therapeutic, first of all. So,
Mhm.
like, just going through a practice like that, just for yourself as a human, like in a daily life outside of career and all that, just seems like it's a benefit in itself to just dig through that. I mean, who needs a therapist? Just buy your book, right? So,
And get a therapist. I am not a
not
therapist, a medical doctor, nor do I play one on TV. I'm not taking responsibility for your issues.
no
I'm not.
medical, yeah. No, this is not medical advice.
Exactly.
Yeah, disclaimer will be in the show notes. So yeah, but so you can understand then who you are, what your stories are, and why they have meaning, which are important to include in your voice and your
Mhm.
messaging and your content. I think a lot of people though can understand that, but still get a little bit weary or scared to voice that stuff because it is so
Mhm.
personal. And sometimes
Mhm.
people don't want to come off too personal in
Mhm.
their personal brand,
Yeah.
because they think it's too much information for people, or they're just scared to show that side of them. What do you say to those people?
I was one of those people. So I understand that. I am one of those people. I know it might not seem like it because I'm sitting here talking all big and bad about my daddy issues from the stage, but I didn't start off that way. This, I've always been a fairly candid human, but it got to a point where I had to tell a story when I was going through postpartum depression. So I had my beautiful little girl, Ruby Coral, who is my favorite person in the world. Don't tell my husband. And she was born November 2022. And after that, for about 11 months or so, I experienced deep postpartum depression. Somewhere in the middle, when I was feeling the most alone, the most isolated, I said, I have to be seen. And it wasn't like I was actually alone. I had therapists. I was at an individual therapy, group therapy. I had my husband, I had my family, and we had our doula. I wasn't actually physically alone, but I felt alone because I felt like no one could truly understand me because I was keeping the thoughts inside. And I don't know. I think maybe like in the haze of the depression and the haze of everything, I just kind of had like a, well, screw it. What do I got to lose? I already felt like I was at the bottom. So what do I got to lose? So I took to the internet, as one does, and I shared my story on Instagram. And it was about, let's see, the first one, I shared it like kind of twice. And I think that the first one was a post of me. I was born in 1986. So it said September 19th, 1986 through November 7th, 2022. And I had a picture of me, like a birth and a death. And it was like grayed out. Scared some people, like, I'm trying really hard not to swear, but poopless. People were calling my husband. I had to like do a little edit at the top, like, no, I'm not
Right,
actually dead.
disclaimer.
Yeah, a little disclaimer. But the post was about how the woman I knew died, how I didn't take very good care of her, how I always was telling her she wasn't good enough and not tall enough. I mean, well, I am really tall, I'm 5'10", but not pretty enough, not whatever enough, not smart enough, not enough money, not enough whatever. And then she died when my child was born. And I realized that she was my best friend and I would never get to meet her again. And now I was left with the broken pieces and this other woman who I didn't know, wasn't even really sure I liked her. And I had to start again. And I made a promise to myself that no matter who this new woman was, I was going to grow to love her and treat her better than I did the woman before. And I pressed post. I would love to tell you that I had a normal reaction. Like, I was terrified to post it. But again, I was in depression. I really didn't care. Like, I was a little bit like, oh, okay, well, we'll see how this goes. But I'm going to go back to pumping my boobs out to be a food source for another human. So I have other things on my mind.
Right.
And then I went to go check it again. I checked the post. And my DMs had blown up. People were texting me after I clarified that I was actually physically alive. People were texting me, call me. Thank you so much. I've gone through this. Nobody else has been able to articulate this. My wife is going through this. I couldn't understand. She wasn't able to tell me what this was like. And I now understand her better because of your story. Thank you so much for sharing this as a conversation no one has ever had. And then I posted like something else a couple of weeks later that was similar about, what postpartum depression looks like. And you would think, talking about personal brand, that this had nothing to do with my brand. And I wasn't doing it because it was like a brand move and I'm like a master brander. I was doing it because I couldn't not, right? And I also, didn't give two poops about it at the time, truthfully. I made so much money. And people came to me to do consulting once I got my mind right. And they had me doing coaching for them on speaking and da-da-da-da. And the connection is not immediately clear, right? I'm actually telling people I am out of my right mind and don't know which way is up and probably my boobs are leaking. And they're like, yes, we want to pay you so much money, thousands of dollars. That doesn't make sense immediately. The reason why, though, is because they saw me and my authenticity. They felt and they knew that they were working with another human being and they could connect with me through their trials, their pain, their struggles. They saw that I wasn't a gray box. They saw that I hadn't even really formed what box I wanted to be right then, but they saw that it was something that was authentic and they can work with that. And so for the people that are terrified, that are going through something or about to go through something, they don't want to be as vulnerable, I urge you to give it a shot. You don't have to necessarily delve into your deepest, darkest secrets, but be a little bit more real, because that realness creates the connection, which goes to the old marketing thought of like know, like, and trust. The knowing part is deeper than, hi, my name is this and I like pumpkin spice lattes. Like no one cares, right? It's really a deeper knowing, especially now in a world where people are craving deeper connections.
Yeah, I think it's a really important point too, with everyone's gone remote, no one's really having an office anymore, and like everything feels fake and static and off the shelf. So I don't want to say like what's winning right now is authenticity, but it should be a through line regardless. But it's definitely an area where like it's what the world needs, if you will. So people are craving it. So you give them even the slightest bit of like, here's the warts and all, and people go, oh, finally. Like I'm tired of seeing the
Exactly. That was the feeling. That was the feeling that people were saying. Because I asked them, because I was a little concerned about them and their decision making, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
I was like, so you picked me after I told you all the crap I was going through. What's up? And they did say basically exactly what you just did. Like, oh, we're just tired of being sold to. We're just tired of the fake. We're tired of the AI posts. We're tired of it was just nice to know that there was somebody out there that was real.
Yeah. So I want to get into then, because we're gonna have to have a part two on all this chat. But I want to start because we're talking about how you're using authenticity to grow your business and your brand, and how that's led to a monetary increase in your business. I want to kind of get a snapshot of like, how did you launch your personal brand? How did you start? Kind of the history there, what that journey has been like, and I assume authenticity has been a part of that. So like, how have you kind of used authenticity from day one to grow that, or maybe it wasn't day one and it's something you had to kind of learn along the way?
I know I was about to be like, oh, I love how you think that it came on day one.
Yeah, right out the box.
Right
Talk
off
about
the bat.
boxes, right out the box.
Right out the box.
Yeah.
So I started my business, this business at least, February 2020, super great time to start a business. And I hooked up when the pandemic started with a great publicist. And so I didn't actually really know I was starting a personal brand. I was trying to start a marketing agency. And I did a lot of PR at that time because that was, and a lot of free webinars and all this stuff to serve the industry I was in at the time, which is the wedding catering and events industry. And now I work with everybody. Um, and that kind of kicked off a personal brand that was not my intention, but it was kind of what was needed at the time during the pandemic. People were looking for solutions. And I was like, well, you could do this, 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 and this. And so you just start talking and then people start recognizing you. So people started then recognizing me more than my company name. And I resisted that because my ultimate goal is to be, at the time, now I don't know if it's really, it's not really the same, but was to be an empire builder. And so I didn't want it to be the empire of Aleya. Obviously, I was going to be the empress because duh. But I didn't want it to be the empire of Aleya. I wanted it to be just the business name, like any other business, like Apple or I don't know, Microsoft or whatever. And so I tried to offer advice and then direct everyone back to my company, They didn't want my company, they wanted me. I also am, through all this work we're talking about, have a degree of self-awareness where I realize that I'm a likable human being and I'm an attractive human being, not just how I look, although I am cute, but my energy attracts. That's what everyone says when I get off stage, when they're like, oh, we love your energy. And so it actually was fighting against the vein of abundance to say, oh, I don't want to be that because that's just what and who I am. So eventually I accepted that and then developed like aleyaharris.com. And then now that's where everything goes. But there's a lot of people and a lot of my clients that say, well, I don't want a personal brand because I don't want everyone to have access to me. It's almost like they think that they're going to become like a Kardashian overnight or something and everyone's going to be all in their lives. I was like, no, it's still, you still get to decide what you're sharing. But if you are in a business where you are the main attractor, then it behooves you to have a strong, it behooves everyone to have a strong personal brand, but especially if you're the main point of attraction. Because even when I had a large team in the marketing agency, that model of my business, and clients would get upset when they wouldn't get as much one-on-one attention with me as they wanted. So I had to change my model to give the people what they want. And it sounds so like my head's up my butt. I realize that, but that's just been my experience. And that was not what I was wanting. So now the model that I have, clients interact primarily with me and work is done in the background, but they're interacting primarily with me because I was the one who they saw on stage. However, because of that, I raised my prices considerably because I can only do so much, right? So if you want to, I tried to do the be with Aleya, pay this amount of money, which is larger, or work with my team and pay this smaller amount. Nobody got the smaller amount. Mm-hmm. So personal branding and the authenticity journey is also realizing what's working, what's not, even if it feels super cringy. Like I'm cringing at the words I'm saying right now because it sounds like I'm super full of myself, but I promise I'm not. Yeah. It's more just like what was working. People come because they're attracted to me, and that's where my money comes from. As soon as I open my mouth on a stage, people pay me money.
You're saying you increased your pricing because it was going to be more your time. And were people then, what was that when you went to market with that and said, I'm increasing my pricing, were people like, all right, fine, we'll pay that? Or was there like pushback?
Not really. People were like, we're fine, we'll pay that, which is like boggled my mind. It also made me feel like a freaking idiot. Because when I started so I am a marketer with like over 15 years of experience. I'm a marketing executive. I work and led global teams. When I first started, though, none of that seemed to matter because I was on my own. I didn't have like the big brand name behind me. I was thinking like, oh yeah, I'm a marketer. I've done all this stuff, but no one knows Aleya for that. They just know the companies that I've worked for. And so when I started, my strategy was $600. Just gonna I'm going to breathe through that. And I thought that was all I was worth. Didn't matter if companies made, thousands or even sometimes millions of dollars based on the strategy they had created. I didn't know my value. And that was actually tied to my daddy's issues and all that journey of worth and et cetera. So we're resolving that as we're resolving pricing. It's all related. Now to work with me for a very similar service, it's refined and grown. It's $10,000. And that's one, the market rate. So I'm not like doing anything ridiculous, but it also reflects the journey and the growth that I've had, especially because I've had people pay me that. And they're like, I need my storytelling. I'm going to sell my company. They're giving me a $2 million valuation. And then I love this client. And he goes, I need my storytelling. I need my magic. I said, okay, well, I don't know about magic, but I can tell a good story about your brand and help you differentiate yourself. And then he sold his company. Now it's going to be 3, maybe 4 months ago for $51 million. So I'm sorry, if I'm going to charge you $10,000 and you going to make $51 million, I feel like it's worth it. I don't know. I just feel like it might be worth the investment.
Right. That's a
Right.
that's a weekend
And I
out
need to
with
charge
friends.
more.
That's drinks and dinner with friends to that person at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, the authenticity vein through all of that came with a lot of the work that I put in the book. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? You're like, how did this happen? Well, it happened because I lived it. I went through the journey. Then I started telling other people about it. Then they wanted to live it. Then I guided them through living it. And then through that now becomes another stage of my journey, another story that I get to tell people. So the things that I'm telling people to do, I have lived, experienced the growth of and seen them work. That's how I've gotten on more stages. It's how I charge, thousands of dollars to have someone have me speak on their stage, because I've gone through the messy bits and the, am I really worth that? And I don't really know what I'm doing, and the imposter and the this and all the crap of uncovering my own self. And I'm telling you, I'm trying to give you the shortcuts, I guess. You still have to do the work, but maybe not as confused as I was to do the work.
And so you have your social presence, you have your website, as you mentioned, public speaking, and is this your first book that you're coming out with?
This is my first book.
Okay,
Yes.
Mazel tov. So you
Thank
have
you.
your book. What was from like more so from 0 to 1, day one? What were you mostly focused on in order to attract clients?
I love how you use the word focus. Like that's what was happening.
What were you strategically when you mapped this all out on a whiteboard and spent hours putting together this strategy? What did you come up
Exactly.
with? Yeah.
So that was not my thing. There was a lot of fear-based decision making in the beginning of my journey. I need money now. Okay, so I guess the part that I probably didn't say, that I started my business in February 2020 because I got laid off in February 2020. And I made the decision, do I go and do my own thing, or do I go back and work as a marketing executive? I decided to do my own thing, and I had some savings and blah 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 blah, and so we did the thing. And then in September 2020, I was like, okay, I'm really going to do this. And within 6 months, I made $250,000. So I was like, okay, I can do this. Right. And then I lost it all. Like any true entrepreneur does.
I don't want to harp on this part for the story a little bit.
Exactly. So I never am going to present to people that, oh, I made it and you can too, and then stop the story there. I did make it. I did great, but I continued to make fear-based decisions, which meant that I didn't have that whiteboard plan, or I would have a whiteboard plan for a month and then erase it and have a new plan, and then have that for a month and then erase it and have a new plan. And I wasn't patient enough to see a plan through, and I wasn't focused enough to only do one thing at a time. What a novel concept, right? And it's so funny because when I coach entrepreneurs, they say the same thing, like, I want to do this and I'm this and I'm that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I know, baby girl. I know you're all those things. Your mama told you you are a special unicorn. I believe her. Let's just pick one though for right now. Like, because I know the pain of trying to do all the things, be all the things, hire all the people, pay all the people. At one point in time, I had a $30,000 payroll per month, right? And it's just like, it, for what? The business model that I was trying to go after, because I had embedded in my mind a limiting belief that I thought was a facilitating belief, was I am going to build an empire. I am an empire builder. What that meant was I wasted money when I should have said stop. I didn't focus. I was trying to have a shotgun approach when I should have narrowed down to one. I should have gotten clearer, crisper in my vision for how to go to market. The things that work really well for me are showing up, which is like super not great when you have postpartum depression, which is also another reason why I was broke looked good to me, looked great. I was like, could I just be broke? That would be awesome.
You can get paid being broke.
Yeah. When I show up, when I'm on a stage, when I'm on a podcast, when I'm talking to human beings, that's when I make my most money. But I was trying to do all the other things. Well, let me run these ads. Let me that aren't me, that are just like these stock images. Let me do these posts where you can't really feel my personality. I'm going to outsource this, outsource that, outsource this. To the point where if you looked at the way I marketed my business, it looked more like a textbook smattering of all of the marketing options that you could do, rather than a true strategic marketing plan based off of the authenticity of who I was and the patience that getting what I wanted was probably going to take longer than a month. And understanding that entrepreneurship has ebbs and flows and ups and downs, but you can ride it all out if you just have a longer vision and some patience to be able to say, this is a ebb or a flow, the bottom one, the bad one, the one that
I
doesn't
think
feel
it's an
good.
ebb.
There we go. And I can ride this out because I have a plan, because I have a vision. I don't need to do a full-on pivot every single time something doesn't go my way. That is what I was doing, and that is how I lost a grip of money.
And I think what you mentioned, let me put myself in a position where I can shine my brightest. Like you had clear understanding of who you were and what you were self-aware enough to understand, like, put me on a stage and I'm going to sell. Was that something that you then, I guess, stumbled into, found that was working? Is that a core way that you were then driving a lot of your clients, is like, I need to be in front of that person, showing my energy and showing what I can do for them?
Yes, absolutely. I did stumble into it. I mean, like I said, I've always been a talker, but I never really thought of that as like a skill. And, in elementary school, I was the one that got in trouble for doing the talking, right? Or like then you grow up in class in high school. I was the one that was always raising my hand because I'm also a bit of a know-it-all. So like there's that too, like if you combine that together. And, it was like, you're raising your hand for the third time and the teacher goes, is there anyone else who'd like to contribute? Like it was that type of situation. So I didn't really think of my talking as a good thing. And it took me just kind of being on stage to realize, one, that yes, communication is a superpower of mine. And two, the power of being on stage does actually not come from my ability to speak. It comes from my ability to listen. So when I am on stage, my mouth is open and words are coming out, but I am one channeling. And if you actually listen to some of the top speakers talk about what they are doing, they're like, I leave flexibility to read the energy of the room, or I curate my delivery based on who's in front of me, things like that. For me, I say that that's channeling from spirit, your higher self, your radically authentic self, to allow the words to come out. And so I'm listening to that. I'm listening to the audience. I'm reading their energy. I'm thinking about what they need. And I've thought about it beforehand and embedded it in my presentation. I've done the research. It's the listening that allows me to then use the talent that I've been given, that was kind of poo-pooed for many years, to convey all of the things that I'm hearing. And that's what makes me a good speaker. And that's why I make money from stage, not because people just love the sound of my melodious voice, which they do. They do. But it's because in that voice, they're hearing something interesting. They're hearing themselves said back to them in a clearer way that they now can use the tools I'm giving them to reach for themselves.
Do you think then, like, it sounds like you found that lane and that allowed you to kind of go from 0 to like 10, and then you're kind of using that platform then now to write the book and other forms of, marketing from that. Do you think for those who maybe don't have a great stage presence, haven't been blessed with your stage presence and ability to listen and communicate, that they should then find what that is for them? What is their public speaking channel, and then double down on that, but still, tying that into authenticity still?
Yes. So there's a couple things. I'm a firm believer that anybody can be a public speaker. I'm also a firm believer that you should not be a public speaker like me. First of all, I am me. So there's that. That box is already occupied. And nobody really needs another one. Like, I'm already a lot. So one other one would just be too much. So when I teach people how to speak, it's not how to speak like me. I teach them to speak like them in their authentic self. Some people are more quiet spoken, or they're more have a slower cadence to their voice, or they're hilarious, right? And they're more riotous, and it's bringing the humor, whatever it is. I want them to speak like them. And I believe anybody can be a public speaker. Anybody can be a confident public speaker. However, if you're just like, absolutely not. I hear you. I don't believe you. And we clearly haven't met. I am the challenge that will have you change your mind and say that not everybody should be a public speaker. If that is you, I respect your game. I respect it. Find you. Like, you could be a prolific writer. Write blog posts and do your heart's content, right? You could be a podcaster. You're like, I don't like public speaking because I want people to see me, but a podcast, no one's seeing you. There's no audience, and you might be able to shine. It's like you're talking to yourself, right? Pick your lane to interact in a way that makes sense for you. The lane and the channel is very important, because that is, you need to be where you feel the most comfortable, where you can shine. But it's also, again, going back to what we were saying in the beginning, what you have to say. So I can get on stage and I can make an audience feel great, right? But if I didn't really say anything good, it's kind of like going to church. I don't know if you've ever been to a Baptist church. You're going to be there hooting and hollering. You're going to be singing some songs, right? And if the pastor doesn't actually say anything that you can take away, as soon as you're in the parking lot, you start cussing out your kids. And it's like, wait a minute. What just happened? We were all Jesus 10 seconds ago, right? Because there was nothing that was said that latched into you. And so whether you're latching into people in a blog post or a podcast or from the stage or in a book, whatever it is, that content really, really matters.
Well, I think there's been plenty said here today that has latched at least into me, and I know will have latched into our audience. So I want to thank you so much for coming on today. And if people wanted to learn more about you, opt into some of your services, or check those out, or be interested in this book that you got coming out, where should they go?
The book is available on Amazon. It is called Spark the Stage. You can buy it on Amazon or anywhere books are sold. And you can find me at aleyaharris.com and all of the things that I am doing currently. That's ALEYAHARRIS.com.
Wonderful. Aleya, thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you so much for having me.